The survey vessel Zanari's path emerged from subspace above the third planet of a yellow dwarf star, its hull gleaming like obsidian glass in the void. From a command bridge, High Scholar Vero of the Thalzir Dominion peered through translucent data glyphs, her four eyes narrowing at the blue-green sphere rotating slowly beneath them. Primitive, she declared with a note of casual disappointment. Barely post-industrial. No warp signatures, no subspace echoes. A fossil world. Her crew murmured agreements. They'd cataloged dozens of such planets across the spiral arm, planets burdened with carbon-based life forms barely aware of the stars above them. This one, labeled Terra in its native tongue, was expected to be the same. Quaint, violent, self-consuming. Then the signal came. At first, it was little more than static interference, harmless background radiation. But then it modulated. Rhythmic pulses, layered harmonics, structured, origin. Viral asked, "Continental sector?" "North," replied Archivist Talon, his tendrils flickering with unease. "It's emanating from beneath the planet's surface. Deep beneath." Viral leaned forward. "Coordinates." "Now." The team descended hours later in an atmospheric shuttle cloaked from human detection. The landing site was remote, an overgrown mountainous region, scarred by centuries of erosion. There, hidden beneath layers of earth, stone, and time, they found it, a structure of impossible scale. The vessel was unlike anything the Thalzir had catalogued. It was buried horizontally across a ridge, its hull half consumed by forest and root. Strange glyphs etched into its black alloy pulsed faintly as they approached. It was old, far older than anything human civilization was supposed to have created. "This cannot be theirs," said Viral, scanning the hull. "They lacked the sophistication to build this. Even now, they launch metal canisters to reach their moon." "But the signal," murmured Talon. They entered through a breach in the lower deck, where vines clung to ancient corridors like veins. Inside, time had stood still. Walls hummed with dormant energy. No decay, no corrosion, just silence like a beast in hibernation. In the heart of the ship, they discovered the chamber. It was circular, vast, with a central pillar that extended floor to ceiling. Consoles encircled it, designed for hands that matched no known xenoform. The entire room felt expectant. One of the assistants, a young Xenotech named Dren, approached the pillar and brushed dust from a control node. The moment his gloves touched it, the entire chamber pulsed. The lights ignited. A slow, blue pulse spread across the floor, followed by a hum that vibrated through their bones. Symbols blinked to life on the consoles. Holograms flickered. Star charts, genetic strands, archival memory. "The ship is responding," said Talon, his voice trembling. "It's responding to us." "No," said Viral, her voice suddenly sharp. "It's responding to something else." Outside, the mountain trembled. Far beneath, ancient mechanisms stirred. Gears locked, cores realigned. Power flowed for the first time in thousands of years. In orbit, Zanari's path recorded a burst of subspace energy. The same energy that once powered hypercivilizations before the silence. It originated from the vessel below, a vessel that, by all current records, could not have been human. The central pillar in the chamber unfolded like a blooming flower, revealing a translucent interface. A single line appeared, inscribed in a language so ancient even the Thalzir had only fragments of it recorded. Viral read it aloud, each syllable tasting like static in her mouth. "We are not the first children of Earth, but we are its last." Talon's eyes widened. "This ship, it's human." "That's not possible," Viral snapped, yet her voice cracked under the weight of certainty unraveling. Suddenly, the interface responded, not to the aliens, but to a presence outside the ship's perimeter. A young human man, drawn by dreams he didn't understand, had found his way to the excavation site. His name was Caleb Rowe, an archaeologist, a nobody in the greater scheme of galactic power. But when he stepped within range, the ship surged with power, lights flaring, engines whirring. The doors, locked to the Thalzir, slid open for him. Alarms rang through the alien encampment. Talon spun to the console, disbelief on his face. He activated the core. "No," Viral whispered, stepping back as the ceiling panels peeled open to reveal the sky above. The ship recognized him. Outside, the soil cracked. Trees collapsed. Massive slabs of stone shattered as the ancient vessel began to rise. Dust plumed, birds scattered, and the earth itself screamed beneath the weight of the awakening. From orbit, the energy spike was unmistakable, on par with the warship of the Dominion's own prime fleet. The Thalzir High Command immediately flagged Earth as a potential military threat. On the ground, Caleb stood in the open doorway of the ship, eyes wide, heart pounding. He didn't know why, but it felt like coming home. The last thing Viral saw before the dust swallowed her team was a symbol flaring to life on the hull of the ship. Simple, elegant, defiant. A human handprint. And below it, etched into the metal in letters meant for stars, a message. Arc-class sentinel. Status reactivated. Caleb Rowe never believed the recurring dreams meant anything. Fragmented stars, unfamiliar symbols, voices speaking in forgotten tones. All seemed like subconscious noise in the mind of a restless archaeologist. But now, standing inside the awakened ship, surrounded by walls humming with intelligence far beyond his comprehension, he knew those dreams had been memories. Not his own, perhaps, but imprinted, waiting. The air inside the ark was different. Not stale, not fresh, aware. Each breath felt like an unspoken question. As the ship sealed its massive doors behind him, Caleb's pulse quickened. He reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing a nearby panel. It lit instantly, responding to his touch with an almost affectionate warmth. A soft tone echoed through the corridor, and the floor beneath his feet subtly shifted, carrying him deeper into the vessel. Behind him, Viral and her team scrambled. They shouted commands in their sharp, clicking language, unable to breach the sealed hull. From her vantage point outside, Viral watched the ship respond to the human, with precision and purpose. No force had granted her team such access. Not scans, not overrides, not molecular intrusion. But this man, he walked freely inside a ship older than most known civilizations. And it obeyed him. Within the ark's core, Caleb arrived at a vast chamber lit by strands of golden light. A figure appeared before him. A projection, neither fully human nor machine. Female in shape, clad in robes of pulsing circuitry, her voice melodic and solemn. "You have returned," she said. "I don't know what this is," Caleb replied, his voice shaky. "I don't understand." The figure inclined her head. "You carry the echo of the builders, those who came before you. The ark was meant for their return. For yours," Caleb swallowed. "You're saying I'm part of them. In body and spirit, in memory." Her voice deepened slightly. "You are not a descendant. You are an heir." Images flashed around him. Cities floating above oceans. Spires that pierce clouds. Humans communicating through thought, reshaping matter, coexisting with machines in harmony. A civilization ancient, impossibly advanced, lost to time. Caleb staggered back, overwhelmed. They destroyed themselves? He asked, afraid of the answer. The projection's expression shifted, sorrow tracing her features. Not destroyed. Hidden. They scattered, fragmented across generations. Memory faded. Purpose eroded. You remained, unaware. Outside, the Thalzir Council received urgent updates. Surveillance drones captured the rising energy levels of the ship. Panic spread through their fleet. The Dominion had assumed humanity primitive, a planet of brutes and poets clinging to combustion engines and tribal nations. Yet here was proof of an inheritance far more dangerous than any weapon, a dormant power tied to legacy. "Prepare to neutralize the threat," barked the Council General. "If the Ark becomes mobile, containment will be impossible." Viral, still on the ground, hesitated. She stared up at the ship, now humming with life, and thought of Talon's earlier words. "It's not responding to us." The narrative had changed. Inside, Caleb stepped toward the central pillar. The AI, she called herself Lyran, guided him. "The Ark is a seed, one of many. You must choose whether it blooms again." "What does that mean?" he asked. She lifted her hand, and the walls became transparent, revealing a holographic projection of Earth. "The planet is on a precipice. Your species walks a path of blindness. The builders left these vessels not as weapons, but as guardians, custodians. But only one born of the signal may awaken the charge." Caleb shook his head. "I'm no guardian. I'm just a researcher with a student loan and a minor obsession with lost cultures. You are what remains, Lyran said gently. And that is enough. He stared at the globe. All of it. Cities, forests, nations, oceans. He thought of the endless noise, the wars, the politics, the ignorance, but also the art, the defiance, the wonder. Was it really so hard to believe that somewhere deep in humanity's bones, a forgotten greatness slept? Outside, seismic tremors intensified. The Thalzir fleet activated their weapon systems. The energy signature from the Ark was spiking again, this time resembling a drive core preparing for launch. Fire upon it if it lifts, came the order from orbit. Inside, Lyran turned toward Caleb, eyes calm. You must choose now, to remain hidden or to rise. He closed his eyes. The dreams, the visions, the truth now unveiled, all aligned like stars. He placed his palm on the final panel. I'm ready, he whispered. The ship roared to life. Waves of energy burst from its core, lighting up the sky in arcs of blue and white. Gravity bent. Trees twisted sideways. Every piece of human tech within 100 miles blinked out, and in the clouds above, the Ark lifted. Caleb stood in the command ring as the ship ascended. His pulse echoed in sync with its heartbeat. Below, Viral shielded her eyes from the rising light, not from fear, but from awe. She'd studied thousands of species, billions of planets, and yet she had never witnessed a moment a forgotten legacy came awake. For the first time in her long academic life, she felt small. Above the earth, the Ark breached the cloud line, its hull shimmering like starlight reborn. In the distance, the Thalzir dreadnoughts charged their weapons, unaware they were aiming not at a relic, but at a future, and had just begun to remember who it was. The Ark hung in the upper atmosphere like a newly risen moon, its polished hull reflecting sunlight in flashes that danced across continents. From orbit, the Thalzir fleet adjusted into attack formation, their vessels forming a crescent wall around the Earth. Dozens of sleek cruisers, carrier arbiters, and a dreadnought-class command vessel glided into position. The order was clear: containment through force. High above the clouds, Caleb stood at the command deck's heart, a circular platform surrounded by glowing conduits and star maps alive with motion. Lyran hovered beside him, the AI's projection now more defined, her expression somber yet resolute. You should know, she said quietly, they fear you, not because you are dangerous, but because you remind them that their power is borrowed. Caleb's jaw tightened as he watched red dots cluster on the Ark's outer sensor sweep. They don't understand. They think this ship is a weapon. To them, Lyran replied, it is. He turned to the console, breath steadying. Can we defend ourselves? Lyran nodded. Without destruction. Back on the Thalzir flagship, Viral's voice cracked through the command bridge. We must wait. Observe. This is not aggression. It's reclamation. The Ark hasn't fired, hasn't made demands. This is a rediscovery, not a threat. But her appeals were drowned by voices from the Dominion's higher chambers. Humanity has violated its observational bounds. They've breached the void under our surveillance. Eliminate the anomaly. On Earth, media scrambled to explain the appearance of the impossible craft. Footage leaked, an enormous vessel rising from the soil, trailing ancient energy signatures. Online chaos erupted. Some feared alien invasion. Others saw salvation. As global unrest brewed, the Ark reached full atmospheric stabilization. Energy fields adjusted to compensate for gravity, pressure, and heat. The ship, for all its size, moved with the elegance of thought. Then the first Thalzir strike came. A narrow lance of crimson energy speared through the clouds, aimed squarely at the Ark's rear engines. But as the beam neared contact, space warped, folding gently like silk, and the blast dispersed into stardust. No counterattack followed. Inside, Caleb's heart pounded. Did we block that? Lyran raised a hand. Phase field redirection. Non-lethal. They will try again. And they did. 3 more beams, then 6. Pulse torpedoes. Gravitic distortion waves. Each one rendered harmless by the Ark's elegant defense systems, which never retaliated, only neutralized. The Ark fought not to destroy, but to teach. Finally, Lyran looked to Caleb. They do not understand restraint. You must speak. To them, to all. Caleb stepped toward a column that extended from the floor. The moment he touched it, the interface pulsed and a global broadcast began, one routed through satellites, relays, and frequencies known and forgotten. Across Earth, screens blinked to life. A lone man appeared, surrounded by radiant light, framed in a chamber that looked not of this world. My name is Caleb Rowe. I'm human, like you, but this ship, this ark, was not made today. It was made by those who came before us, humans who reached the stars long ago and left behind tools to guide us when we were ready. On the bridge of every Thalzir ship, the same signal appeared, translated in real time by their neural matrices. Shock rippled through the alien command ranks. Caleb continued, "We are not invaders. We are not rebels. We are awakening. And though you fear what we might become, you must understand, this vessel was not designed to conquer. It was designed to preserve, to remember what we lost, and to remind us what we must protect." In the silence that followed, no one moved. Then, without command, the ark extended its lower hull. Dozens of glowing projectors emerged, casting downward not weapons, but light. Cities below received beams of harmless, scanning energy, repairing failing grids, healing polluted waters, rebalancing natural systems. Across deserts, lost plant life blinked back into existence. In oceans, coral reefs flickered with sudden color. Humanity watched in stunned reverence as the ship restored what their hands had broken. On the Thalzir bridge, Viral exhaled slowly. This isn't power. It's stewardship, but not all shared her clarity. A final order came from the Dominion's Central Authority. Activate the pulse core, a weapon of irreversible consequence. As energy began to gather within the dreadnought's spinal cannon, Lyran turned sharply to Caleb. "They will not stop. You must decide." Caleb stared at the projection of the dreadnought, a massive, cruel construct bristling with energy. He saw in it everything his ancestors had feared, everything the Ark had waited to outlive. He stepped forward. "Is there another way?" "There always is," Lyran whispered, "but few are brave enough to choose it." Caleb closed his eyes, drew a breath, and activated the Ark's true defense. Not fire, not force, but memory. A wave of energy burst from the Ark, invisible yet potent, carrying across the Dominion fleet. Ships paused. Minds reeled. In an instant, every Thalzir on board saw the past. The builders, the rise and fall of ancient Earth, the scattering of seeds across stars, including the genetic origin of the Thalzir themselves. And for the first time, the truth struck them, not like a weapon, but like a mirror. The Ark had not risen to dominate. It had risen to reconnect. And the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The dreadnought's cannon dimmed. Silence spread across the Thalzir fleet, like the void itself had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. Across hundreds of vessels, commanders stood frozen, their minds still echoing with visions the Ark had released, visions not of conquest, but of kinship. In those memories, they had seen not enemies, but origins. In the ancient cities and the starlit archives, they had seen reflections of themselves. Viral trembled, still standing on the observation deck of her escort ship. Her hands gripped the rail as tears welled beneath her outer eyes. "We were not the first," she whispered, "and we were never alone." On Earth, the skies cleared. The Ark hovered above a shimmering ocean, casting no shadow. Its power had quieted. Lights pulsed gently along its hull, alive, alert, but at peace. Within its core, Caleb sat beneath the star-mapped dome, Lyran beside him. Her features softened. "They withdrawn," she said. He exhaled, a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Just like that." "No," Lyran replied. "Not just like that. You showed them who you are, who they are. The truth cannot be unseen." Outside, news networks struggled to translate what had occurred. Images of healing seas and vanishing pollution swept across screens. Reports came from war zones where weapons had stopped working. Missiles refused to launch, and soldiers laid down arms in confusion and awe. Around the world, silence grew where division had once reigned. Not all understood it. Not all believed. But all had seen. Still, Caleb knew the peace was fragile. One revelation did not undo centuries of ignorance or fear. The Ark had bought time, but time was a blade that cut both ways. "What now?" he asked, voice low. Lyran turned to him. "Now the Ark listens and watches. Its role is not to lead. That choice is yours." He rose slowly, footsteps echoing the chamber as a new interface bloomed from the floor. Maps of Earth and beyond. Data streams flowing with precision and grace. Across the planet, nodes of energy marked locations where other structures, other seeds, might still sleep beneath dust and history. "Are there more?" he asked. Lyran nodded. "Some broken, some hidden, some waiting." Humanity was scattered, not ended. Caleb approached the interface and placed his hand on a control disk. He didn't feel power surge. He felt responsibility settle. "Then we find them, one by one. Far above, beyond Earth's reach, a different light stirred. Deep in uncharted void, where no stars burned and no signals dared wander, an ancient eye opened. It had watched the Ark rise. It had listened as the builder's legacy sparked again. It had waited longer than memory itself. And now it moved. Back in the Ark, Lyran paused, her form flickering for the first time. "Something is listening," she said, almost to herself. Caleb turned. "What is it?" "I do not know," she replied, "but it remembers us." In the shadow of this new awareness, the Ark's lights dimmed briefly, adjusting, preparing. Caleb felt it in his bones. The next chapter would not be about what Earth had forgotten, but about what the galaxy had chosen to remember. From the ground, a child looked up at the ship suspended in the sky and asked her father, "Is it ours?" He nodded, his voice full of wonder. "It always was." And above them all, the Ark waited, not as a weapon, not as a monument, but as a question, a mirror, a beginning.